There we go. So that should be recording for everyone. Thanks for joining us. So today's Lunch and Learn is all about environmental education. I'm Helen. So in Harvey's absence today, I'm hosting. I've not been to one of these before, so I'm quite excited to sort of see what it's all about and hear from our speakers as well. Do we want to go around and introduce ourselves?
Yeah, so, can do.
Yeah, so I'll start. I'm Helen. I'm Partnerships and Engagement Lead at Ribble Rivers Trust. If I pass on to Alison next, sorry, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Alison. I'm Outdoor Learning Officer at the Ernest Cup Trust.
Lovely, thank you. Sam's next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a Project Manager at Groundwork Cheshire, Lancashire and Merseyside.
May is next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm a student at Warwick University and I'm the chair of Lancs Can Youth Committee.
Lovely, thank you. John and Vlad, you're next on my screen.
So I'm John McLeod. I work here at Blackpool Sixth Form College. I'm also Lancs Can Lead for schools and youth community. Vlad next to me.
I'm Vlad. I'm a Blackpool Sixth Form student and I'm Lancs Can Youth treasurer formerly.
Lovely, thank you. Ivy, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm from Edge Hill University and I also work with Lancs Can doing the communications.
Lovely, thank you. And Darren.
Hi, I'm Darren from More Music. I'm Education Inclusion Manager here and I'm the Arts and Culture Lead for the Lancs Can. And this is...
Hi, I'm Maxine and I am a young person social prescriber here at More Music and work with our Eco Collective group
Lovely.
of young people.
Fantastic, thank you everyone. So I think we will move on to our first talk for the afternoon, and that is Alison. So Alison Cross is an outdoor learning officer for the Ernest Cup Trust, and she's going to tell us a bit about their grant giving programme, outdoor learning programmes and collaboration. I'll pass over to you now, Alison. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Helen. So I'm going to give you a quick whistle-stop tour of environmental education, outdoor education, all things education that takes place outside. So we'll initially start with who the Ernest Cup Trust is. So we are a UK educational charity helping to nurture lifelong journey of learning, appreciation and respect for the countryside through a range of outdoor learning experiences. We were set up as an educational charity 73 years ago by a man called Ernest Cook. So this is the guy that we are set up by, and we continue to work with like-minded organisations, for example, the Ribble Rivers Trust, and partners to support those experiencing deprivation and connecting them with nature. So we learn from the land and we take action for our local environment and, of course, the climate. So we also give, we teach and we share. So we're not just a delivery charity, we have other kind of aspects to us. So we give 3.5 million of charitable spend. We teach and we work with nature connection as our main focus, especially supporting communities who consider themselves underserved. And we also employ outdoor learning officers like myself to actually directly work with schools, community groups, etc. And we also share a big aspect of the Ernest Cup Trust is collaborative working and therefore collaborative learning together. So I started in Lancashire back in 2018, kind of representing the Northwest. But since then, we've actually grown quite a lot in our Cumbria and Lancashire hub. We purchased Low Beckside Farm, which is in Cumbria, in 2021, and now we support primary, secondary and further education colleges across Lancashire and Cumbria. And we work with higher education field visits, CPD for teachers, we deliver work, and we have quite a lot of partnership work, most importantly to me, partner with the Forest of Bowland National Landscape, and we also cover quite a lot of the Cumbria and Lancashire kind of community links that are I'm sure aware of between the Lancashire Can kind of network. So how do we do what we do? We engage with young people and we provide them with opportunities to connect with nature, and we encourage them to take action for the climate change and nature recovery. So instead of just simply teaching children about these aspects, we actually provide the foundations for their connection, which enables them to make those kind of actions and take home messages. In terms of how we do that within the big strategy, so we have a learning strategy. I don't have 2 hours to talk you through all of this flower, so I'm just going to focus on a few of the aspects. So we go to the Connecting People and Nature project. That's the one that I work on, and we are all about working with young people and adults as well that surround the Forest of Bowland in terms of connecting them with nature. This is funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. We also have a project that links with external kind of partners. So through this project, I've worked with the Ribble Rivers Trust to do some tree planting. I also link with the Morecambe Bay curriculum team, and also doing work on our Ribble farm, so it's farming in protected landscapes, and bringing schools and community groups to those farms to kind of see what happens in that rural countryside area that they might see from the urban spaces, but might never have actually been into them. So this was a school, as you can see in the middle, actually coming to a working farm where they were quite surprised there aren't rabbits. These are cows. It's a working farm, and yeah, a very different smell, let's just say, as they got off the bus. But young people were suddenly kind of, yeah, in awe of what a farmer has to do in the working day, which is amazing to kind of teach, let alone for the teachers to work out, you know, what a different type of job farmers have. We also do lots of skills for nature work, to provide young people with qualifications, specialist training, apprenticeships and trainees, and attend careers, open days to kind of showcase what an outdoor career might look like. And we offer various training such as dry stone walling training, which is what happened here on our farm in Low Beckside. Another project that I link with is the Blue Influencer Scheme, which is all about engaging young people from 10 to 14-year-olds and in environmental social action projects. We work with a range of external organisations who kind of host our Blue mentors, and they are on our map now. I'm sure you've heard of a few of them, such as, of course, Groundworks and Lancashire Wildlife Trust. And we just support these organisations to kind of help those 10 to 14-year-olds, which are the age range that normally get to that drop-off stage in terms of nature connection, engage with their local community, but most importantly, take action. So it could be a litter pick, it could be a campaigning, it could be coming up with a PowerPoint presentation to give in their local assemblies. So this project has still got another 1.5 years of funding actually until we complete this one. Another amazing project is the OWL, which is Outdoor Week of Learning. This is in partnership with the Country Trust, and we deliver hands-on environmental education programme at various farms, for example, at our Low Beckside farm in Cumbria. And it's all about getting people to spend a whole week at a farm and taking on the farm challenges, basically, see what it's like to be a working farmer and doing their routine jobs. But these might range from tree planting to conservation, but also things like herding the sheep, which is absolutely hilarious to watch 30 young people try and herd sheep on the working farm. But the farmers love it, and I think the teachers kind of have their eyes open into some of their young people's lives and what their young people are capable of. That is not just writing at a desk. It's a really kind of influential kind of experience, and hopefully embedding outdoor learning within that school itself. So our coverage is quite vast, so not just Northwest focused. You can go on our map actually on our website for a more up-to-date version. This is from last year, and it's all about key successes, I would say, through the Blue Influencers Scheme project, the OWL collaboration, employing outdoor learning officers as well within different host organisations. So we've got 30 outdoor learning officers that we employ. We've obviously got 10 of our own outdoor learning officers who do hands-on delivery. And it's all about basically saying that you can explore your local space and doing that collaboratively and enhancing what schools do. But you don't have to do it all yourself. I think that's our biggest take-home message, is that outdoor education is so vast and huge that each school might come at it from a different angle. And the way the Owners Cut Trust work is collaboration is key, and making these programmes bespoke to suit each audience while sticking to our key aims, having freedom to try, cultivating connections, and also progressive stewardship to kind of make conservation, environmental education, or nature-friendly farming happen. And that kind of helps us work towards meaningful place-based programmes with a range of support for all of those young people that we engage. So I'd say these are our 4 kind of take-home messages in terms of how to do great environmental education. And as I keep saying, you don't have to do it all yourself. Schools, of course, are having all sorts of things thrown at them with nature-friendly farming, various schemes in terms of getting out and active a lot more. There's obviously a lot of mental health challenges since post-COVID, but it's how do we do that? And we always think the answer is through outdoor learning, and that farms can do lots of multiple things, as can lots of green and blue spaces, but they can benefit the young people and those teachers as well. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour of our version of environmental education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alison. That was really lovely, really good insight. Anybody got any questions for Alison? I know we're a bit of a select group. Yes, thank you, Maya.
First of all, that was really, really interesting. So thank you very much. I didn't know a lot about your organisation and it sounds really cool. I wanted to ask, because I know you talked about kind of working across different age ranges. Have you noticed sort of any differences in like levels of engagement or interest across different age groups?
Oh, great question. I would say yes, and it is the typical kind of response that the graphs show. You know, 0 to 5-year-olds, I run outdoor toddler groups for that age range, and it's very much led by the parents, of course, for under 5, and therefore once you've got the parents on board, the young people naturally follow, and most young children do like being outdoors. But until they're allowed or enabled to do it by their parents and carers, that's one thing. In primary schools, I'm just at Lancaster University, and we just had a big meeting actually about primary schools engagement. And it is there because it fits with the curriculum a lot. And then we get to year 6, where suddenly it is about exam focus. And that's why we are in that 10 to 14-year-old age range, especially for the Blue Influencer scheme. And then you suddenly get to GCSEs, where maybe if you're a young person like I was at school, where climate change and global warming was starting to be talked about, and that's what I was passionate about. But unless you had that passion and interest, it does drop off. And then suddenly we get into the university age range and the apprentices, where the outdoors is kind of an opportunity, but unless it's a space that you see every day, why would you have a job in it? It's just that place, isn't it? And that's the difference. We're trying to kind of make the bridge and connections, especially attending various conferences like a good one we went to with John, to kind of enable people to think of green spaces, not just for primary schools, but I would say it is unfortunately still at the secondary school tenure to 18. It does drop off quite quickly until that passion kind of gets us, I guess, as we become that young person.
Thank you.
It's all right.
Thanks, Alison. We'll go to John and Vlad next for a question. I think they had the hand up next.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maya's, I mean, actually, yeah, that was really, really interesting, Alison. I did know, you know, a little bit about what you do, but the range of it and the number of programs is fantastic. But I think you said that about the sort of drop off in the nature connection at 10 to 14. I mean, you know, we certainly experienced that in some of the partnership work that you know, we have this local network of Fylde Coast eco schools, and it's very much primary dominated. And there are definitely secondaries doing stuff around it. But I wonder what your thoughts are, you know, where you're seeing progress with, you know, whether it's that embedding into the curriculum or just, you know, winning that argument that outdoor learning is so important and nature connection is so important. I wonder where you feel we can exert even more influence collectively to do that.
And I think I was going to praise you guys. It is what you're doing. It's given that youth-led approach, I think, is so important, because when we get to secondary school, if you're thinking of back in our 14-year-old days, you know, a teacher telling us this is good to do is only going to come into our kind of thought process a little bit, while your peers telling you this is really important, and having that collective peer-to-peer discussion, I think that's what makes the impact, I feel, for that age range. Externally, you know, we've got things, the hope of a GCSE natural history GCSE that apparently is coming. It was meant to happen this September. Whenever that arrives, you know, that's going to kind of fill that gap at the GCSE level. But young people have to pick that GCSE. It's not like it's an English one where you have to take it. And therefore, you know, there's only so much, for example, with the Blue Influencer scheme, where if we were working with a Blue Influencer group, we might initially get those young people who are already interested. So I guess what we at the Trust are trying to do is engage the audience that aren't interested at a different level, if that's through arts, if that's through music, if that's through learning some hands-on skills, and then you add on the nature connection, climate change element. I think it's really important to meet the young people where they're at, whatever that interest is. And then a few weeks, maybe even months further down the line, it's slowly introducing them to climate change, to nature connection, to what is in their local environment, rather than going in, right, we're going to do climate change. Yeah, I'm sure that'll probably reflect well in your young people. Yeah, kind of meet them where they're at approach.
Thanks, thank you.
And probably very similar to what Darren does as well.
That's a fantastic summary. Thank you, Alison. Should we go to Darren and Maxine for their question?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's really interesting. I knew a little bit about Ernest Cook Trusting, mainly because the Blue Influencer scheme. I wasn't aware of like the scale of it and how far-reaching it is across the country. But I think you may have partly answered my question already, because I was going to ask, like, in terms of the work you've done, whether there has been sort of overlaps with arts and culture in the work you've done, and whether that's, I mean, particularly with the Blue Influencer scheme, like, are they sometimes programs that are designed around arts and culture kind of method, delivery method, but then with the additional outdoor learning attached to it?
Very much so. And I feel like I use the word segue quite a lot. Like, we start on an arts and culture project and suddenly, oh, we've segued into this. For example, you know, simply going out and taking photos, I know was something we tried to do in the Morecambe Bay area, linked with, I think that was a Global Link, I think, in Lancaster project. And that was, you know, taking photos and capturing the landscape. And then, there's another one that Ant did, which was about recording sounds. And of course, that started very much arts focused, but with that kind of theme around the blue. And that's where the collaborative working, I think, is so important. It's not going in heavy-handed, being, you know, I'm an eco warrior and that's all we talk about. It's talking about poetry, it's talking about maths and arts and technology. I think we've just had a great discussion here at Lancaster University where, you know, we're trying to get young people off the screen, but all they want to be is on the screen in some cases, not all children. So therefore, let's use screen and let's use modern technology to actually enhance what we do and to create that kind of journey and connection, rather than being, okay, this is no screen time, which is obviously what we aim for, but we aim for that over 6 months. You know, it's not something you ask young people to do on day one. Yeah, I'd say go with the flow. It's collaboration, it's working with the young people, and most importantly, it's working with them, not putting an agenda together. It's actually asking and meeting them where they're at, I'd say. And if that's arts and culture, then that's where we are. And yeah, I think there's so many avenues I'm sure you've taken, and then we've ended up in a nature kind of project somehow at the end of it.
So with the Blue Influencer scheme, sorry, I won't ask many more questions, but just like, is that like going to be an on-running program that you're going to carry on? So like, be more opportunity to apply for that or to be part of it, or? We
don't know the next one, but I can definitely tell you last time we started in 2020, unfortunate year to start, but it's just when it happened, on a green influencer scheme. So that was, we had more host organisations then, and that was all about green, nature connection elements and climate things. So people did kayaking, they happened to do, or wanted to collect litter along those kind of projects. We had a whole school in the northeast area actually do an amazing projects about hedges, in terms of planting hedges for pollution purposes And then they suddenly realise, which we all know about, oh, hedges, aren't they a great place for nature as well? But because that's what they decided it was all about pollution, all the other external things kind of naturally came from that. But they wrote poetry and all sorts of things, but it was very much hedges, pollution and poetry. But suddenly lots of things floated around, and we got a different project overall. In terms of post Blue Influencer scheme, because it's funded by the I Will project, and therefore it is kind of led by what their focus is. But of course, there's lots of external funding around at the moment. It's just a matter of what suits that doesn't already have kind of a pre-program written, because we're all about working with young people rather than getting them involved in the pre-program. I think that's the difference, isn't it, in funding these days, which I know is exactly what the Lancashire CAN is currently trying to do with all our funding schemes.
Thank you.
Thanks
you,
for the
Alison.
questions.
Yeah, some really good questions there. Does anybody else have any other questions for Alison before we hear from John, Vlad and Maya? No, lovely. Right, so without further ado, because I know we're a bit behind schedule, I mean, because we've had technical issues at the start, I will pass on to John, Vlad and Maya to talk a bit about the Lancashire Youth Climate Conference and Lancashire CAN Youth. Oh, so we can see your screen, John, but we can't hear you. You're muted still.
I did half of that right. I shared the presentation, but forgot to take off the mute there. So yeah, just first of all, I'm very conscious that pretty much all of you were involved in some capacity, your organisations, yourselves, wonderful support for the conference that we had. So I'm not going to go over in great depth what exactly happened at the conference. I think our focus is very much now the future, the impact of the conference, and some very exciting developments that particularly May is going to talk about towards the end of our presentation. But just for so we do have that overview, I'm going to give you a little bit of background and a few points about the conference. And Vlad, then next to me, is going to talk more about from personal experience of being one of the key organisers of this very youth-led conference, about what that was like, and how that sort of learning can be extended to other projects. And I think there's a lot there in common with what Alison was saying about the importance of partnerships, the importance of being youth-led in this kind of work. So I think we're really got very similar messages on that, I think. So just a very quick recap. I know most of you were actually there, involved in different ways, but back in October the 30th last year, we had the Lancashire Youth Climate Conference here at Blackpool Sixth Form College. Obviously a key event in the Lancs CAN calendar. We had 94 participants, 16 to 19-year-olds, from 16 different institutions, and that did cover school sixth form college, and very exciting, I think, as well, all sorts of different youth groups across Lancashire involved. And in total, we had 50 organisations contributing in some way to the conference, which I think is that very much that commitment to partnership working. Key factor in the success of it, and something we wanted right from the start, was that it was youth led. Vlad and Josh, who can't join us today, but was very much driving force between a lot of it, supported brilliantly by Maya as mentor, who had a lot of experience in previously running events and being involved in this kind of activism, and a lot of organisations involved supporting it. I think it's worth highlighting, apart from the Sixth Form College, we had a lot of support from Blackpool Council, the youth services, head of youth services there, and his team, and the Boing Boing Foundation. we found a way with the Boing Boing Foundation of funding the posts of young climate activists. So Vlad and Josh did and very deservedly so get some money for their fantastic work. And I think that's something that is coming out in our discussions around the Lancs Can bid to the youth driven aspect of that is how can we extend that kind of model of internships and where possible those being funded posts, because that's giving young people very much direct experience in this area, and something that they're getting something very directly back from it, as well as the the experience, and Vlad's going to say more about that. The program itself, I think the way to characterize this is there are lots of different elements to it, and that was very much the choice of the young people, particularly of Vlad and Josh, working with Maya, and also they did a lot of outreach to other young people, to youth councils, etc. A lot of consultation on what young people actually wanted from it, and so we had a mix of roundtable discussion based on various climate action themes. We had input from the councils on where the area is at, where Lancashire is at with its progress towards carbon neutral and wider environmental goals. Very successful part of the conference, I think, was, well, very popular part was the workshops, delivered by various organisations on different themes related to the environment and climate change. And we have also, this is where we have vastly sort of expanded the amount of organisations involved. We had a marketplace during the break and lunchtime, also the beginning of the day, where young people could investigate opportunities offered by lots of charities, businesses, related organisations, opportunities for volunteering, opportunities for further study, opportunities, for inspiration about how to take climate action. We did also have performance elements. We really it was the young people really from the start wanted to see that range and the input of the arts, and I know the Darren's organisation as well contributed a lot in the marketplace. There's some wonderful music, and it's definitely sort of really contributed hugely to the event. And there was also CPD sessions for staff. We took the opportunity of there being quite a lot of college, youth service staff there, that bringing them together. This was an opportunity for inputs, and we had inputs from Solar from schools, the Morecambe Bay curriculum, and Let's Go Zero on climate action plans. So the last bit I'm going to say is really what we wanted to achieve, and this very much set up by Vlad, Josh, and Maya and other young people involved, was that we wanted to increase young people's confidence and knowledge about how to take climate action in their own areas, in their own lives, in their own communities, and understand more about how they can extend that into future careers, into their lives going forward. And the key bit of evidence back that we did do that was the young people themselves at the end of the conference pretty much all said they had increased knowledge and confidence about taking climate action as a result of the conference. But now I'm going to hand over to Vlad, who's going to talk more personal experience about leading this event.
So firstly, about my personal gains. In general, it was a very unique experience for me. This conference was almost a child for me, I know, almost from the beginning. And it gave me a lot of knowledge and lots of opportunities. So to be more specific, Firstly, probably it was networking, as I had to meet lots of people here. Some of them were from different organizations in this field, local authorities, students know this topic really well. It was for me an opportunity to increase my knowledge, as I wasn't an expert a year ago when I just started all these preparation bits for the conference. I'm not an expert now, but I understand that my knowledge definitely increased. For me, maybe it was more about plant-based think for the environment, and understand now that it's much broader topic. For instance, only plant, it's huge. About skills that I had an opportunity to develop is public speaking, because the conference was the biggest event for me this time. It's the biggest audience ever for me. And I had other opportunities such as chairing meetings, which also aspects of public speaking. In general, event organization was very broad for different aspects. As I mentioned, it was in chairing meetings, meeting people, lots of communication, lots of planning to make this event done. And also the skill was partially evaluation. For instance, I can provide some evaluation about this conference from my perspective. Firstly, some silver lining that was partially predominantly covered by John so far, because it has some bits such as range of organizations and experts involved, because we had some local authorities involved, had organization on the marketplace, speakers, we had workshops involved, theaters. So we had really broad range people and organizations who could make their contribution to empower and to inform young people about climate and ecology in general. Also, as John mentioned, lots of delegates actually enjoyed it. We had some statistics, we made some surveys, actually to be sure that participants gave their own voice of what they think, how it was useful and actually interesting for them. About some bits that went not so well, probably predominantly it was the panel discussion, because it was not exactly how we planned. We had some experts we didn't plan to have from the beginning. So it was a bit of a problem because of our initial time management. We had initial amount of time, but more people than we planned. So also for panel discussion, probably we should had to make it a bit different in terms of design in another way, so all people would have their say on different questions, but we had just a couple of questions and everyone was talking about the same question. So yeah, maybe we also had to increase interactivity for panel discussion.
Okay, great. Thanks, Vlad. So the last bit I'm going to hand to May is going to talk very much about, some very exciting news about development of Lanxcan youth.
Okay, thank you. So one of the kind of outcomes of some of the discussions and events that have been going on has been the formation of Lanxcan Youth, which, as the name suggests, is a youth branch of Lanxcan. So we emerged from sort of those of us who've been kind of involved in the conference and kind of involved through various networks. So at the moment, we have kind of a youth committee, and then we're soon to be kind of opening up for kind of broader membership. So at the moment, it consists of myself, Vlad, Ivy, and Josh, and we form the current committee. But this kind of emerged. So we had kind of an initial meeting with John where we kind of talked generally about like what the idea of a youth group within Lankscan would look like and kind of some of our general purposes. And from that, we kind of went away as the four of us and delved into that in a bit more depth to look at what we actually kind of wanted to put forward as our aims and objectives. So that's kind of what you can see. We identified a central aim, kind of an overarching one, which is to empower young people in engaging with climate action within the community and on a broader scale. And then we kind of based this off Lankscan's own sort of objectives, and then looked at that and went, how do we want to alter it to be specific to us and our interests? And so we broke it down into three main objectives that we wanted to underpin any actions that we do in the future. So climate action, youth empowerment, and community engagement are the three main sort of pillars that we identified. I won't kind of read through them, but hopefully you can see there kind of how we've defined those kind of in alignment with our plans as a group. But so far, we've been doing quite a lot of sort of logistical work behind the scenes in terms of setting up exactly who we are and what we want to do. So we've worked on establishing roles. You kind of heard at the start of the session some of the different roles that we've got within the group. We've also kind of identified some areas where we might like to be able to have other people take on roles once we start recruiting. So something that we would really like is to have someone who kind of does like graphic design, kind of marketing, social media, because that's quite a big chunk of the work that would need to be done that doesn't necessarily fall specifically under any one person's role at the moment. But so far we've looked at kind of establishing like our general guidance for membership, a sort of code of conduct, to set out some kind of guidelines in terms of what would be expected, not only from members that we recruit in the future, but also for ourselves. And in terms of some of the main actions that we'd like to do, so obviously we've been working a lot on kind of the setup generally so far, but we've also started to talk about some of the things that we want to do as a group. So we've, I know we were talking about sort of technology in the previous talk, but we were also looking at social media as a sort of a big way to engage the young adult demographic, because we're looking at sort of 16 to 25. So we'd like to do sort of social media series and have a bit of a presence on there, which Ivy's been leading on so far. We'd also quite like to set up a blog space to talk about kind of actions that we've done and just generally have the space to share opinion pieces. Also, a main action that I think we'd like to start on sooner is we'd like to send out a survey to just get an idea of the thoughts and kind of environmental priorities of young people in Lancashire, because we think that would be a really important way to guide our projects to kind of represent the interests of the people that we want to engage with, as well as kind of supporting existing local events and hopefully some point in the future creating some of our own. So that's kind of a quick overview of who we are at the moment, but if anybody is interested, I think the next slide does have our Instagram handle on it. Also, if you do have any sort of questions or inquiries, that's my like Lankscan youth specific email address, so please feel free to contact me on that. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, all of you. That is so inspiring to see action coming up through the youth to bring on sort of the next raft of environmental officers and sort of action projects, and yeah, really inspiring, and I wish I'd been able to be at the conference. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, yep, Darren.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I've probably, well, I will have mentioned it before in other spaces, but like, you know, we have got our event on the 5th of July, which is our 3 Degrees Festival, so our environmentally themed event, and whether, depending on where you are with the youth council at that point, you know, if it was something you wanted to be at to recruit for the group in the Morecambe area, Morecambe Lancaster area, or be present at it, or just come along to it as a group of young people to see what we've been doing. Just in that same reciprocal way, you know, we were at your event and then maybe you could come to ours. That's just an offer I'm putting out there.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. That's very helpful. And I think that we've talked about that within the sort of Lankscan, the funding bid process, about sort of, you know, have a kind of directory of events. I mean, that's across not just doesn't just apply to youth things, but I think that is a real need, that, you know, there is some sort of space where this can be shared, because there's some fantastic things going on that, you know, we don't always get to hear about them. They don't. If you're in certain network, you do, and I mean, it's always going to be the case to an extent. But I think that's perhaps maybe that's something, you know, that youth, Langscan youth could really look at, is trying to spread the word even further on these things. Yeah, thanks, Darren.
You, Darren, great question. Great comment. Ivy, have you got a question for us?
It wasn't a question. I just wanted to say we've also been trying to work on other social medias as well. So we've got a LinkedIn that I've been trying to work on as well. It's just called Langscan Youth, but we are trying to figure out social media as well right now.
Thank you. That's fab. I've got a question. How did you go about sort of spreading the word and signing people up for the climate conference last year? How did that? What was the route for that, and what was uptake like?
I don't know, Vlad, do you want to
repeat, please? Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yeah. How did you go about spreading the word, and what was uptake like for the conference last year?
I think there's a couple of elements, Helen, and I know that particularly Vlad and Josh led on a lot of this, but there's the process of sort of engaging with the schools and colleges and youth groups and stuff. I think that was an interesting one, in that, again, this point about directories and things, that they just don't exist. Even there just isn't a single list of secondary schools in Lancashire, because there's Lancashire County Council, Blackpool Council, Blackburn with Darwin. So interesting. I think we initially did a sort of expression of interest, and quite a few came forward and said, yeah, we'd like to be part of this. And I think this is where, if we would do something again, we would look at that a little bit more, and how can we use the available networks, you know, even better to get people signed up. I mean, I think the numbers we had, we were satisfied with for a first event, but I think that was quite a challenging thing, surprisingly. I wonder if Vlad could come in on because you were involved a lot with the marketplace and engaging with you know, organisations, and, you know, such as Darren's, etc. And I think that was really quite a successful part of it, wasn't it? So how did you do that?
Organization.
Yeah, get the marketplace people. Yeah.
I think it was partially about looking for some organization from broader Langscan, because anyway, all of these organizations were involved in environmental topics to some extent, and they were providing various opportunities for young people. And yes, I would say probably Langscan in general was the main source of organizations for us in Lancashire.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of word of mouth stuff as well towards the end. We picked up some that, you know, they cross recommended, oh, we're going to this, are you going to this? And yeah, I think, I mean, it is just part of doing this kind of thing. You kind of it develops as it goes on, isn't it? And then people get to hear about it through their networks. I just think that's, you know, it's a value of having something like Langscan, because I think, you know, it wouldn't have happened without that overall network. But it's how do we more efficiently have, you know, lists of people who are interested in doing this kind of stuff. That's sort of my thinking on that. Yeah.
Thank you. No, that's answered that really well. Any other questions from anyone? I was going to also ask, if you were to run a similar event, obviously you've talked about maybe trying to pull together a directory of other schools, colleges, places to get the word out. And also you've talked about maybe changing the format of the panel session. Any other sort of key learnings you've taken away that you might definitely do again, or something you might tweak for the future?
I wonder that Ivy, do you have it? Because obviously you were involved with the steering group and then at the event. I wondered, is there anything? Because I know Vlad's sort of said about the panel discussion stuff. Is there anything you would change?
I can't think of too much. I mean, maybe extending volunteers to local universities slightly more, just on the volunteering side of things, because I know there are a lot of people who don't have a specific group that they're a part of. So, and again, that goes hand in hand with social media, things like that. But I think that would be my only change.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point about engaging universities, because there's a 16 to 25 bracket for Lancaster Youth, so it does span quite a range then. And I don't know if that would be a different style of conference with more of the university angle, and whether that's something exploring with Lancscan as well. I mean, I suppose the committee is well placed to do that, because you're soon to be a university student, so that there's that's maybe moving on a stage. I think this interesting thing about age range, and there were questions came up and I know that Alison involving with the steering group on this, about whether it should, what about year 11 at school, and that they've turned 16. So I think that's really interesting. It's like, how arbitrary are the age ranges, and what is appropriate for each stage and range. But,
it's quite a period of transition, isn't it? You're in really different stages at the start of that age range, and at the end. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? Nope. So next on the agenda is Lancscan updates, but seeing as we're quite a select group, and I am not normally involved with Lancscan, I don't think there might be much to add. So if anybody else has got any updates. Nope. Any other business? Probably talk about the next meeting. The date should be Thursday, the 26th of June. But I believe the topic is still up for discussion at the moment, just being finalised. So further details to follow. Keep your eyes peeled for that one. And that should be everything for today. So we've managed to pull our time back despite our technical issues at the start. So unless anybody else has got anything to add, I will stop the recording and we will call it a day there. No, thank you ever so much to our speakers today. It's been really informative, really interesting, and also quite inspiring as well. I've really enjoyed it, having come from a perspective of not being involved with the conference and sort of seeing it for the first time. So thank you very much, everyone, for your input.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.